Bitcoiners, I hope you love your life. I'm loving my life. Things are going great. Who could complain? Who could complain? Jose, very cool thumbnail today. Thank you, Jose. It's there were a few different ones to choose from, so I'm glad you liked the one I chose. Good morning, fam, Jose says. Indeed, good morning. Thomas, good morning. Darkness and coffee. Interesting thumbnail. Thank you. Thank you. We're getting some good thumbnail love today. The sun is shining, just not up here in the bold north. Good thing coffee still flows abundantly. Indeed, Jeffy. Quentin, good morning. Every day walking with Christ. Good morning, Maxis. God bless you all indeed. Every day walking with Christ adds Vivek 2024. Truth, we can handle it. Indeed. Double B. What a great morning, team, Ben says. Christine, good morning, Christine. Hope you're doing great. Hello, Tom. Daniel, good morning, gang. I'm headed to Vermont real quickly today. Got to drop some stuff off, and today's our last day in Montreal. There is a chance there won't be a show tomorrow because I've got to drive to Toronto. But we'll see. It's just depending on how much I get done tonight, car packing, how much time, So we'll see. But I'll let you know for sure before. It won't be a surprise. P-Man Van, good morning, Bitcoin peoples. Hello, everyone. Tom, it is indeed episode 420. So for 420 different times, let me acknowledge the sun is up and Bitcoin's running. All that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what's new. But first, a little Moscow time for y'all to get you started, right? This is from the Daily Mail. This one's good. All right. Debunking the myth of the male hunter. Prehistoric women were better at hunting than men, study claims. They got this picture of like a chick trying to throw a sphere, but she throws like a girl and her legs, there's no muscle in them. It's so good. You got to see the picture. It's really funny. It looks like one of these politicians, when they dress up in their field wear because there's been a natural disaster. When they look like they're like children going to work, dressing like their parents. That's what all politicians look like when they go to check out the disaster zone. They put on their khakis and their jacket. This hunting woman looks the same. You got to see her picture. Thank you, Daily News. This is from Reuters. All right, Reuters. What is Reuters letting us know about the head of the European Bank? ECB chief Lagarde admits her son lost crypto cash. Okay, so her son lost crypto cash. What does she have to say about it? I warned him. He ignored me royally, which is his privilege. And he lost almost all the money that he invested. Stupid idiot. He's in his mid-30s. But here's her final conclusion. All right. It's not that simple, right? It's not just my kid lost money and he's an idiot. Here's what she has to say. I have, as you can tell, a very low opinion of cryptos. Lagarde said, people are free to invest their money where they want. People are free to speculate as much as they want, but people should not be free to participate. This is the fun part. In criminally sanctioned trade and businesses. As long as the criminality is sanctioned, you shouldn't do it. But if the criminality is unsanctioned, then you should do it, I guess. I don't know. I think she's just French and probably used this. When you sanction someone, like when I was on the sanction list. Remember when I was on the sanction list because of the truckers in Canada, right? That's what they did. They put us all on the sanction list, right? So I think she's probably just using her French mind to confuse words, but it comes out pretty funny, right? Criminally sanctioned activity. No one should be allowed to do the criminally sanctioned stuff, just me, right? So thank you, Christine. That was great. Speaking of criminally sanctioned, this comes from the Justice Minister of Ireland, the Irish, getting crazier and crazier, it seems. So this is what the Justice Minister says. I need to see private social media. They got her... Private social media. What? You mean your DMs? I got to see your DMs now, guys. There you go. And finally, in case you were wondering, back to the Daily Mail exclusive. CIA's secret office has conducted UFO retrieval missions on at least 9 crash sites around the world. Whistleblowers reveal. Now, what did we say? Always happened at the same time. We said it this summer. Now, I don't know if these things are connected. I have no idea. But what I said this summer was that anytime you hear a UFO story, you're going to have to look around and find out if Hunter Biden's in the news because they're the same story, right? So indeed, there were aliens that are suddenly back in the news. We got aliens again, right? We love our aliens, more aliens. Give me the aliens. But what's happening at the same time? Well, it turns out Hunter Biden has agreed to testify. So he's going to be testifying in 2 weeks. So Hunter Biden going to go testify, and lots of people talking about it. Here's what it means. We got Mike Benz and Miranda Devine, both with opinions on it. Miranda Devine saying, basically, we need a little bit of sunlight, right? Disinfectant, right? Drink some bleach. She said everyone in the court has to drink some bleach. So we're all going to drink some bleach, and sunlight will help disinfect what's going on over there. Mike Benz had a really interesting take, and I'll read it to you because I think it does sort of explain what's going on here, because it does look a little strange that he'll be testifying. So what does it mean? Let me find the Mike Benz quotes here. I'm sure I have them. Yes, here it is. So Mike Benz says the following. So he agrees with Team Miranda, he says, right, that you always want high-profile interrogation prosecution lines to be public instead of private. But here's his vantage point. He goes, well, you know the Benz theory on this. Hunter was the CIA's guy in Ukraine, tilting its liquid natural gas market toward NATO, and there are whole lines of questioning that'd be barred in public hearing on national security grounds, or would get shit all over the foreign policy blob Republicans' affairs. So he believes the Republicans are actually going to shield Hunter Biden in 2 weeks. I think he's right. We'll see. So I think you're going to get a bit of live stuff, a bit of public interrogation, and then it'll go dark every time. So what you do in these instances is someone in the committee says, let's go, in camera, it's called. So let's go secret. And in camera, obviously, everything in government is opposite of what it means. So when you go in camera, it means you're not public anymore. So there you go. And I remember when I worked in these committee rooms, there was a little light that would say what the status was, right? Whether or not you were in camera or not, which meant you could, speak frankly or not. So that was something that's been a part of it. So indeed, I think that's probably what's going on. I think he will testify a little bit, and then parts that are really important and relevant will probably just go dark. So it's almost like a redaction thing, right? So I'm not sure if that's really the way it's going to be, but that's what I see, right? So there you go. All right. Back to the UFO story for a second. Remember what I said a long time ago. We see UFOs because the USOs, right? And that whole aspect of owing and what's going on, the financial implications, all of this UFO stuff, Tucker Carlson did an episode on it last night. Tucker Carlson did the show on the UFO thing. And he says, for more than 80 years, the US government has hidden the existence of UFOs. The question is why? The answer is ominous. So he had a few people on. He had, in particular, a congressman from Nashville, Tennessee, who we might have to get. I don't have his name here, unfortunately. I forgot to copy his name. So he is a congressman from, pardon me, I don't even know if it's Nashville. He's from Tennessee, right? So he's a Tennessean congressman, and he's the one trying to get any information on whether or not America has ever entered into a deal with these crashed UFOs. Now, the reason is, he says, if we do, then we ought to have some tech sharing agreement. And indeed, there ought to be something there with their energy sources. So whatever energy these UFOs are using to get to our planet, why didn't they share it with us, right? And so his logic is simple. Like, if you have all these deals and you met with all of these people, why are we fighting foreign wars? Why are we going to secure oil and energy all the time? What's up with that? Right? So he's putting down the actual economic argument around the alien thing, which is the most relevant one, right? So now you understand that I obviously don't believe there are aliens out there. I used to be an aliens guy, but the minute you go into simulation theory and you start pulling on that thread a little bit, you start to realize the math of multiple civilizations concurrently living on a timeline is a bit sketchy. Or at least would be complicated from a computer science point of view. So if you were going to design a simulation, you could have alien history. So you could have a civilization that exists in the past, but not one whose timeline would have to match up with our own. That would get a little complicated. So according to a lot of people who understand this stuff. So there's a lot of people who believe that once you go down the simulation theory rabbit hole, you start to realize that there can't be another civilization out there. For limits of compute, right? It's literally compute limit. No matter what scale of compute power they have, that starts to break down at this time. So I don't know. Like, obviously, I don't know about the aliens. That's just what I believe, right? So, what they got into here with the Tucker episode, indeed, was this feedback loop that ought to be there if there were aliens, and that means that we ought to have some of the energy secrets by now, and so he's going to go and try and get them, right? But of course, what we're really talking about here is the seemingly psychotic death pangs of the Fiat industrial complex, both the military piece and the disinformation piece. So you need to expand on your personal metaphysics. Thanks, Jose. Yeah, I'll do that sometimes, but right now let's just stick it clear on the stoned aliens episode. I'll do that again. I'll sort of do it continuously, but I don't have many more thoughts on it besides that, right? So that's what I got on the aliens for now. But here we go. So we got the aliens, right? And the only reason I'm even bringing them up is because we made that prediction months ago that Hunter Biden stories always fall with alien stories, right? So there was a big Hunter Biden reveal yesterday, and of course, alien headlines, right? So that's just a coincidence that I've been picking up on now for a few months. But indeed, let's go back to this idea of persuasion and why the aliens would be in the news at the same time as Hunter, and where did all that come from? Well, we might have some form of indication. So yesterday, Michael Schellenberger, who has been a steady source here on The Breakup, right? I was a Michael Schellenberger consumer of information long before I started doing the morning breakup. And I've been trying to get him come on, man. Compute limit. If we live in a simulation, compute may be completely made up thing. In the end, simulation or creator. Yeah, Slarty, I'm not trying to so let me just say that even with simulation theory, I don't think it limits anything Christian or anything divine about our nature. I don't think those things are separate, right? We're not a computer game, like we're not a Nintendo, right? Like I don't believe that at all. So I just mean how to get them synced, right? So I don't know the answer though, Slarty. So I don't want to defend it. I've just heard people say that, and it makes sense to me. So I'm not strong enough on this material to be the person arguing it. I simply have seen it presented, and I'm able to understand it limitedly and with a bunch of holes. So I wouldn't be the advocate for no aliens based on simulation theory, but I've heard it presented and it made sense to me. But I'm not skilled in a way that could persuade someone else about this, right? I could try, but I don't think I have the skills. So, but indeed, I don't want it to make it sound like I think that if you believe in simulation theory, it somehow denigrates what could be godlike about humans or what we inherited from our creator or anything like that, right? I don't think it changes it in a way that makes it lesser, I guess is what I'm saying, right? I think we'll have a reinterpretation of it, but it will be pretty consistent. I think everything I see from Christianity fits perfectly with the simulation theory. That's just me, right? So we'll see. So let's go back to, because this is why it's important though, and why this persuasion piece around it all is relevant both to Christianity and to what we're talking about and Bitcoiners. So here's the thing that Michael Schellenberger wrote about, right? So he talked about the CTIL files. And these CTIL files apparently has a whistleblower. It's the Cyber Threat Intelligence League. And so he had a whistleblower and he published everything yesterday. So he'll be testifying very shortly about all of this stuff. But what is it? What's going on? Of course, Schellenberger, big part of the Twitter files, a big part of understanding the censorship industrial complex. I think he's one of the first people to even call it that, the censorship industrial complex, borrowing from the military title. So here's what he found out, right? The US and UK military contractors created sweeping plan for global censorship in 2018, new documents show. Whistleblower makes trove of new documents available to public and racket, showing the birth of the censorship industrial complex in reaction to Brexit and Trump in 2016, right? So the Brexit thing happened, the Trump thing happened. And if you remember, they were, at the time, it related in a sense that the establishment and the main legacy media did not want either of these things and ran full court press with the old methods against them, but they failed, right? So right in this document, they say the following, right? They say, we do not want a repeat of 2016. So now that all of these documents are public, so within this, not only was it a whistleblower, they brought a lot of receipts, so email chains and all this with participants in this thing, right? So they published a huge long thing yesterday, which I read, but it's kind of a lot of a repeat of the stuff we already know and all of that kind of stuff. But it did show in clear emails, right? We do not want a repeat of what we saw, right? So we'll get further into it. This is one of the things that this is just one of the pieces or windows into their worldview that came out of these things, right? So here's what it says. TERP's view of disinformation was overtly political. Most misinformation is actually true, noted TERP in a 2019 podcast, but set in the wrong context. TERP is an eloquent explainer of the strategy of using anti-disinformation efforts to conduct influence operations. You're not trying to get people to believe lies most of the time. Most of the time, you're trying to change their belief sets. And in fact, really deeper than that, you're trying to shift their internal narratives to set the set of stories that are your baseline for your culture. So that might be the baseline for your culture as an American. So just remember what he's saying right here, that affecting the baseline of your culture. Now, the way they end up describing this in documents and the way they referred to themselves, do you want to know how they referred to themselves? As Hogwarts. What have I been saying? Forever. I've been saying this is like a wizarding war. If any of you have read my NPC guidebook, right, the Bitcoiner's Guide to NPC Management, I actually use spellcasting and wizardry. They refer to themselves in all of their internal documents as actual wizards. and by wizards, what do they say they do? They say they conduct psychological operations of persuasion to your baseline understanding of your own culture. Right? So what have we been saying as Bitcoiners for a long time? That Bitcoin, of course, within the context of the wizardry behind it, actually does affect your baseline understanding of what you see in front of you, right? We've talked a lot about the feedback loop, Jungian psychology, what it means to have individuation, what it means to suppress your shadow, right? What happens to you when you don't allow these things to become processed by your conscious, when you don't allow your subconscious to be processed by your conscious. And we've been saying that if it happens on an individual level, if this blockage is there on an individual level, it can easily go towards a society level blockage as well. And that's what we've been experiencing. So this alien thing, right, is another one of these instances of a deep suppressed psychological strain that is begging to come out, right? Just pushing and smashing to come out. And, they got Hunter Biden, who's there to try and keep it in, right? Someone who can't control his own subconscious, obviously, right? So imagine they called it wizards, right? Now, it's just a coincidence that I made everything about my book on persuasion about wizardry, spell casting, magic, right? Like I literally went into that. And the reason why I did that is exactly this, right? Of course, US dollars create a situation where that feedback on a societal level is just as stunted as it would be through brainwashing or through any other manipulation that's psychological, right? Remember what I've said for a long time, that Bitcoin is a psychological commodity. So is the US dollar. These are both psychological commodities. They're an operating system for your brain. And because they're an operating system from your brain, there's things you wouldn't even see if you thought that was your base level programming as an American, which is why I've said for a long time that patriotism wrapped around the US dollar was something that needed to be destroyed. And we couldn't have had a better situation in the past couple of years to set that up for most Americans, right? 4 years ago, it was harder. 8 years ago, it was unthinkable that we could be talking in this way, right? About the US dollar, patriotism, American potential, the American future, and all those things. They were all one subject in 2016. They're not anymore. And that's a great thing, right? We now have the opportunity to see beyond this stuff. So remember, when I got so interested in this idea of wizardry, I just used it as context, right? I didn't think that the enemy, the people who have these so we have documents from the recruiting, right? Because remember, it was all about we don't want a repeat of 2016. So they actually went out and recruited military grade psyops experienced people. They even put that in their job descriptions. We need people who have experience running psychological operations, right? So they get into all of this stuff. And it's an amazing revelation that we've seen, not so much because of the censorship stuff. We've seen all that before, right? We've seen it with Twitter files. We've seen it with Missouri versus Joe Biden, that case that's going to the Supreme Court that we talk about pretty regularly here. The Missouri versus Joe Biden case, of course, being the one that emanated from the Twitter files, which is the case where if the federal government, of course, can't censor. So in order to avoid its limitation on censoring Americans, it just created all of these private companies and they could do the censoring for them. Now, that's exactly what was designed in this system. So the Missouri versus Joe Biden case that's at the Supreme Court now is exactly the same as this. The only difference, so we know all of those mechanics, everything that's going on, we know all of that already. What's different here is talking about the talent stack and the conscious desire to bring these skill sets into the censorship apparatus and the persuasion apparatus. And so now we see it, right? The Hogwarts group, that's what they call themselves, right? Here's the name. I've got the quotes from the thing. Hogwarts School of Misinformation is what they called it. So they called it the Hogwarts School for Misinformation and Disinformation, said the whistleblower. They were superheroes in their own story. And to the effect that you could still find comic books on the CISA site. CTIL, the whistleblower said, needed programmers to pull apart information from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. For Twitter, they created Python code to scrape. So there you go. All of this stuff was there. And then their main work as a wizarding body in the wizarding war, which I've described it as many times, right, as a wizarding war, but it really was. Unbelievably, it really was. Of course, everything came down to the election integrity partnership, right? So the election integrity partnership, all about avoiding what happened in 2016 and, of course, running their censorship operations against President Trump in those years. Now, interestingly, Trump yesterday, and if you're not following Rasmussen is probably the leading site to underline what's going on with Donald Trump and the 2020 election. So a few things we found out, right? So first of all, Trump did everyone's laughing at him yesterday, right? Because he was saying, I guess he's done something in the Georgia. No, which one? Yeah, maybe Georgia. I always forget which one's which, right? So the Georgia thing, I think, he's got some kind of discovery motion going on where he's asking how many agents were there to avoid difficulty, right? So everyone's saying he's not going with the defense that they had plants in the January 6th protests, that it wasn't FBI plants. He's asking how many there were to secure it. Well, he's asking how many field agents were in there altogether. But his argument now is that there weren't enough, right? There weren't enough to stop what they should have known was coming. So I think it might be clever, right? I think people are saying, oh, he's given up on this thing where how many agents were plants, how many agents were agent provocateurs, how many agents made it happen. Well, he's done the opposite. He's asked them how many were there to stop it. Because I think if he would have asked them how many were there to promote the insurrection, they would have lowballed the number, right? If it was agent provocateurs, they would have lowballed it. And then you'd have had Trump trying to make the point, that's enough to make a problem, and da-da-da-da. But instead, he's like, how many were there to prevent the trouble? And it's your fault for not putting more agents, right? So I think it might be clever. I don't know. I'm only a little bit believing that, but we'll see. But here's what else we know, right? So yesterday, he made another motion to compel discovery, and this was about the SolarWinds sunburst attack. I barely remembered this, but now I do remember. The SolarWinds sunburst attack, one of the reasons that the CISA election statement was inaccurate is that between January 2019 and at least December 2020, parties reportedly linked to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service perpetrated what the SEC recently described as one of the worst cybersecurity incidents in history. In connection with what is now the Sunburst attack, the threat actors inserted malicious code into 3 software builds for SolarWinds Orion products. SolarWinds then delivered these compromised products to more than 18,000 customers across the globe. The malicious code provided the threat actors with the ability to access the systems of these compromised customers, provided certain other conditions were met, and became known as the Sunburst attack. Threat actors conducted reconnaissance, exfiltration, and data collection, identified product and network vulnerabilities, harvested credentials of SolarWinds employees and customers, and planned additional attacks against SolarWinds products that would be deployed during later stages of the campaign. Let me just see where the election connection is here. Anyway, the point is that this apparently shows explicitly foreign influence in the election. And it's, of course, the president's job to protect against foreign influence in the election, right? So Trump had already signed an executive order years before, giving someone powers related to this. I'm not really sure exactly what they were, but nevertheless, it looks like this will be added into the tapestry of what we understand about the elections. So to me anyway, the interesting part of following elections in this way, again, comes down to this spellcasting, and it comes down to exactly one of the big roles Bitcoiners are going to play in 2024. And the reason why the NPC handbook was written in the way that it was, with the spellcasting, without necessarily arguments, right? We're not in an area of logic. Most of the people we're dealing with have suffered severe brain damage. They are mentally retarded. And the only way to deal with them is to use these wizarding spells, exactly as the enemy has done explicitly with their Hogwarts school of misinformation. This is the real enemy of Bitcoin. The Hogwarts school of misinformation is really what we're up against, right? Which is a good thing. These guys are beatable, right? They think they're heroes, they're doing great, but again, they're missing a whole tool set, which is what we've got as Bitcoiners. And what we've got as Bitcoiners is going to become more and more important because of things like the following, right? So yesterday, you had Jeremy Boring, who I've been talking about a lot lately. He is the founder of Daily Wire, a Nashville-based media company where Ben Shapiro is also one of the owners, and all these other folks. Anyway, I've been trying to get Jeremy Boring to come to our event for a while. He was on the Patrick Bet-David podcast yesterday. And what were they talking about? They were talking about Disney, the failures of Disney, exactly why he created this new Lady Ballers movie. Have you seen the Lady Ballers movie yet, guys? I was talking about it yesterday. The trailer is hilarious. It's so funny. It's just a bunch of guys down in the luck. It's kind of like dodgeball, right? And they got a coach. It's a little bit like the Mighty Ducks trope as well, right? Remember the Mighty Ducks movie, right? The coach is like community service, poor kids, get them together, and then they win the championship with a Bitcoiner, Brock Pierce, right? Of course. Brock Pierce being one of the kids in that movie. At the time, when he first decided to make this movie, it was because what he thought, his impression, which he shared with Patrick Bet-David, was that the CEO of Disney. Whoa. Rach. Sorry, we're packing up, so a little loud. So the Patrick Bet-David podcast, he's there talking about Bob Iger, talking about the previous CEO, Bob Chapek. And what he said about Bob Iger was that, Patrick Bet-David said, this is a guy who's been with every head of every business, every alpha. George Lucas bought his company. Steve Jobs bought his company, or other way around, I guess. And Who else did he put there? ABC, right? You know, he's bought all these, Rupert Murdoch, Fox, right? He went and bought Fox. So he's bought all these huge companies. But here's what Patrick Bet-David said, right? So the movie model, Jeremy Boring says they're not making good movies anymore. I'm going to make lady ballers, right? Which got like a guy choke slamming a woman. They just dominate every sport. Very funny. It's going to be a great movie. How long has it been since you've seen a comedy that was funny? Right? I think this will be funny. So, but that's the key in the end, right? His whole thing is that the ability for Disney to even hire persuasive wizards is gone, right? Because the stories are not interesting anymore. They got rid of everyone. They went with the DEI thing, got rid of anyone who's capable of telling a story, anyone who's capable of drawing a story. The artists are gone. Everyone's gone. And internally inside of Disney, it's become what Patrick Bet-David described as a zombie company. So amazingly, you had the art part, right? You had Jeremy Boring, who's a creator and a business owner and an entrepreneur and all that, talking with Patrick Bet-David, who is a insurance background, but also a Wall Street guy, also a military guy. So Patrick Bet-David gives him a bit of a lesson on what a zombie company is and why you have zombie companies. And he says, just a few years ago, America only had like 1% of our companies were zombie companies. But since the financial crisis, since we got the cheap money, and since debt became one of the main reasons why companies are able to persist, he said it went from 1% zombie companies in America. And by the way, zombie companies, his definition is any company that only uses debt to survive, right? That it can't actually make money, it can't be profitable, it can't do anything like that. It needs debt, and the debt will help it survive. So he says zombie companies went from 1% to 20-something% of the American total. And he says that 20-something% of American companies now, because of low interest rates for years, are now zombie companies, and that Disney is one of them. And that Disney is probably incapable, again, of turning a profit because they're a zombie company addicted to debt, free money, low interest rates, and even their privileged interest rates with which no one else gets, right? So he's described how the share value of Disney has gone from 300 and something billion to 150 billion. It's gone, over 56%. It's crumbled in the past couple of years, mostly because of its financial trouble. And so amazingly, it's one of these instances, again, where we've got zombies, right? We've got aliens, we've got wizards, right? We've got all these cast of characters coming out of the woodwork as Fiat is dying. And it's amazing that it looks exactly like the nightmares of some psychological breakdown. And Fiat system is looking like that. We've got the aliens, we've got the zombies, we've got wizards coming into the game. And the wizards have been keeping people down for a long time. Now, amazingly, Bitcoiners have called themselves wizards for a while. And when we call it magical internet money, it's not because it's fun. It's because there is a bit of magic to it. And the magic is this. The magic is it reconstitutes the feedback loop both in society and in our own brains, and allows us to actually deal with all of these things, like the aliens and the wizards, and in this case, the zombies, right? The zombies are the main problem right now. The zombies are individual, they're corporate, they're all over the place, but this comes from the poisoned and sick money. So amazingly, Fiat News has provided us with an amazing tapestry. And I will say there's one other thing I wanted to mention, which is that there's another Q that's been released. Amazon has a Q now. And it's called Amazon Q. So one of the things that I've been thinking more about Q for a while now, Q star, and what I remember I told you it was like predicting, and it was this human-based thing where humans can predict, the machine can predict, and we can help train it to predict better. It's that, but there's also a component of it, and I think prediction is one way of putting it. But the way I've seen the Q star thing more and more now it's math based. It's not a huge innovation the way some people, it's so dangerous and scary. But one of the things that I see from it is that it allows for something like imagination, right? Now, what is imagination? Imagination is that thing you do in your own brain when you go, what if I do this? And then you're able to create this hypothetical potential scenario. And then you use reality and you do the actions. And if they don't match up, you adjust, right? So you can use this fake imagination to know where you want to go. You can imagine the consequences of your decision. and then you can iterate many times to see if you get to that destination. So it's a type of prediction and that's exactly what it was done, what it was optimized for, right? From the Larry Summers point of view for financial modeling, it was not the shortest road. It was the most profitable, irrespective complications, right? With some probability underneath it. But what it does is it allows for this hypothetical construct to be created the way your imagination would. And then you have it, and then you can see if you can actually get there. And that's consciousness, right? If you can imagine something and you want it, and then you can start iterating on how to get there, that's consciousness to me. Now, I could be wrong, right? But nevertheless, amazingly, that this character is rising that I think will help us do exactly what I've been saying for a long time. It's designed to be personally trained to help you imagine the consequences of various decisions and to have this kind of hypothetical potentiality that you can access on a daily basis as you would a friend's advice. So incredibly, we got heroes, we got villains, we got zombies, we got aliens, we got wizards. News is getting really fun. It's really fun. 2024 is going to be the best. And amazingly, as I continue to think and as I continue to say, the answer is going to be Bitcoin. And not only Bitcoin, it's going to be Bitcoiners' ability to describe the failings of the fiat system in a way that makes sense to people, like elections, right? Again, I don't want to hear any people from the breakup saying, did you see the video showed clearly ballots, something fake, mules, thousands of mules, ballot drop-offs. It's all complicated. No one's going to be convinced by that, right? Bitcoiners understand election systems. We don't need to find one particular aspect. We just need to see what the wizards are doing, right? What the system is built on and how the system functions and operates. And Bitcoiners can be a source and a reference for all of these people getting brainwashed. And we can give them the simplest possible answer. And it's not credible. It's not a credible system. We don't have elections. It's not about cheating or not cheating. We don't have elections. There's no such thing, right? So there is no impetus on us to find the Kraken, to find the smoking gun, to find proof. The proof is there. The proof is in the building, right? The proof is in the system they built and the trade-offs they made. And speaking about it in terms of engineering that are easy for everyone to understand is going to be one of our main roles in 2024. And it's going to be one of the reasons and one of the main ways that we, I think, orange pill people and I think persuade people and save them from being zombified and turned into fiat sludge people, which most of them already are, unfortunately. All right. The Bitcoin mind virus protects us from the spells. It sure does. But we can cast the spells. We are spell casters. All right. So that's why I wrote the book. Now you have a lot of the spells you're going to need in there to fight the actual wizards. I can't make this stuff up, guys. They outed themselves as wizards. Luckily, I've written a spell book for you to fight them. So we're doing okay. We're doing okay. Felipe. They make KGB look like it. Well, for sure. That, you know what I've been saying for a long time? You know, when the other part of me that says, well, you know why the Americans don't ban TikTok? Because it's not strong enough compared to their own brainwashing techniques. It's just not a threat. Could be wrong. Invisible weapons for silent wars is now the fallen criminal government's operation on their own populations. Sheepless under a spell of stupendous stupidity. They sure are. Yo, Bitcoiners. The US is a zombie country for sure. Yeah, for sure. Zombie country, zombie companies, for sure. That's exactly what it is. Magic, internet, money, powered wizards versus zombie krakens and dragons. And aliens. Don't forget the aliens. Bitcoin fixes the stupendous stupidity by able to change of hearts and minds, turns to the reality of natural law and common sense. Indeed. All right, let me just see if Rumble worked. And I told the Rumble folks, because Rumble does not pipe in my stuff, right? If you didn't know that, how could you know that? I don't see Rumble comments, live Rumble comments. Let me see if I got some. and I'll read them because I told the folks in the comments that I would read them. So let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. There's the live chat. Freedom Maxis. There we go. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Best morning show out there. Great. Thanks, Smartinez04. I finally got up early enough to catch a live show. Scott GG123. The illusion is fading fast. Indeed. Hollywood is an outlet intermixed. Are you sure they use the language psychological operations? The military and intelligence apparatus replaced the term with information operations and loose terms like, no, they asked for PSYOP experience in the job descriptions. They didn't even say psychological operations. They asked PSYOPs. They even did the contraction. So you can see it. You can see it's in the long text. I read it. So J6 was a production like Whitner. Of course it was. Yeah. October 7th as well. Well, I don't know about October 7th. There's some definitely shady stuff, definitely. But I don't know if it was the same. I didn't look close at that one. All right. Yeah, I'm convinced that the music would have been nothing to fake. Israel has mandatory, so they got plenty of young actors. Could be. Yeah. Look, Scott, I will not say you are watched on Rebel. Thanks, Zim. Yeah, look, it's another one of those things, fog of war. You have to wait, right? I just like in the days after January 2020, not January, sorry, the election in November and January 6th, 2021. I took a bit of time. I mean, I had a feeling that things were going, but I didn't try to speak so certainly until time went. You had to let some time pass. And I think on this one, importantly, we do. Now, I won't deny the Gaza rumors about land. No one's moving back to Gaza, by the way. That's not happening, right? It's Israeli now. So you got to look at that. That's an incentive. You got to look at that. But again, my logic here was indeed October 7th could have been what you said, but the psychological operation worked so well that you would say revenge was in the cards, and that was that. So there you go. How about a Bitcoin board game? Yeah, it could be. Anyway, thanks, Rumble guys. I will try and continue to make a habit of reading your comments, your live comments anyway. All right, team. I got to drive to Vermont today, so we're going to do a little bit shorter. Wizards, go be a wizard. Have fun wizarding. We're all wizards. This is a wizard show. We do wizard stuff. Read my book, The Bitcoiner Guide to NPC Management, if you want to know actual spell casting, just in time for revelations that we're up against wizards. All right, everyone. Hopefully see you tomorrow. I'll let you know. I think it'll be tomorrow, but it'll be another short one because we got to drive. Peace.